So if you're listening to the show, you might know that I have been going through shit lately. And this really made me think that I would love to offer my group program, the Urban Cleanse group program. But this time I am part of the group. I would like to go back to losing the weight that I gained these past couple of years. And I would like to feel better in my own skin. And I know a lot of you do too. And I do know that my program does work if I only did it myself. So if you'd like to join, please go on www.organilicious.ch, click on the Urban Cleanse button and join us. It'll be loads of fun. We'll do it together. I will be your support, your knowledge, as well as your team member. I'm looking forward to see you there. Thanks a lot.
Hi, and welcome to the So Frickin Healthy podcast. I'm Megan McCrory, and on this first episode of the show, I'll be interviewing my co-host, Danna Levy-Hoffman. We are both certified health coaches and live in Switzerland, but beyond that, I don't really know much about Danna. Stay with us as we just scratch the surface of Danna, our resident hippie. Hi, Danna.
Hey, Megan. How's it going?
Am I saying it right?
You are. You're the only person on earth who says my name right. Could that be? You're my soulmate. I've said it before.
So we're just going to chit chat. I'm going to ask you some questions because honestly, I know nothing about you, but we're doing this podcast together. So this is a really good idea. Might as well get to know each other while we're doing this, right?
I think it's a perfect idea. I would love to know more about you. And I always love talking. So here we go.
Good. Okay, Danna. So we already got past your first name, which is a milestone, I think.
It's a huge achievement. It is.
So I'm curious, we both live in Switzerland, but we're not both from here. So maybe you could tell me just a brief little history about how you found your way to Switzerland.
Gosh, a brief love.
Love. Oh, that's really brief.
Right? You wanted brief. I grew up in Israel and in Boston, and I moved back to Israel shortly before going to the army. And shortly after I was done with the army, I met my husband. And it's one of those really sappy stories of like, I saw him and immediately fell in love. And, angels were singing. It was one of those kind of like beautiful stories. And we fell in love, got married very quickly, moved to Switzerland very quickly. And so, our move to Switzerland wasn't planned, but it's been 17 years. Doesn't seem like we're going anywhere anytime soon. So here we are.
He's not Swiss then.
He is.
So he just happened to be in Israel and you were just like, hey, you, checking you out.
Yes and no. Yeah, he is Swiss. His parents are not, but he is Swiss. And he was traveling. He was traveling in Israel and volunteering in Israel. And he actually met a good friend of mine back in the day when they were both traveling to New York. Long story short, he emailed him and said, do you want to meet up? I'm in Israel. And so the guy goes like, should I meet this Swedish guy? By the way, Swedish. And we were like, sure, why the hell not? And he goes, okay, then come with me. And so my friend and I came with him and we went to pick them up from a pub. And they were coming down the stairs and I see this like handsome guy with a white shirt and blue eyes and just gorgeousness. And I was like, here's my husband. Welcome. I don't know your name. So that first night that we met, we stayed up talking until 7:00 in the morning.
Oh, isn't that a movie? So you got like this movie romance thing ending in like the most awesome country. Well, not ending, you guys aren't dead yet, but yeah. So where you are right now, that's really cool. Really cool. When you were in Switzerland, is that when you started really focusing on health and wellness?
I think that health bone was always in my body in one way, shape, or form. I grew up with a grandma who was like everything revolved around food and health, and there was a direct link to food and health. But the rest of my family, they're going to hate me for saying this on the first episode of our podcast, but health, food, food is a huge topic, but health, not necessarily. But I did realize that I had a different understanding to what health was before I even got into it. long story short, when I was pregnant with my firstborn, I was 4 months pregnant. We lost grandma to lymphoma, which is a sort of cancer, and she had it for 4 years. And she died like less than 40 kilos. So she was just miserable, for the last 4 years of her life. She was really miserable. Shortly after, my kids are 15 months apart. That's a whole crazy different story. But after my second was born, we found out that my mom had lymphoma as well, and another form of cancer. So by then I had 2 kids. I was severely depressed on medication and sleeping pills and everything. And I was overweight. I was 20 kilos overweight. And then the news about my mom came in and I was like, oh, fuck me. Like, oh, by the way, we're going to curse a lot on this podcast. Alert. Yeah. I literally said like, fuck me. How's that? Grandma had it, mom has it. Like, I don't want my kids to go through seeing someone they love suffer this much. And I don't want to go through it. And so something clicked in me and I started kind of looking, and I hated being on antidepressants and I hated looking in the mirror, not recognizing myself. It was just a terrible kind of feeling. And so I started kind of researching, which led me into this kind of, I'm not going to call it black hole. It's a very beautiful, bright white hole of functional medicine and nutrition and integrative nutrition and all of that. And, within that year, I managed to lose my excess weight. I managed to drop the antidepressants. And I was really feeling like I was just, like this person that I felt that I was. And that led me to, starting a business, continuing my education, starting my business and everything like that. And it was just a huge passion that never ended. I don't think it ever will.
No, I don't think stuff like that goes away, Yeah. What's like the thing in the past, in your history with your business and your health journey, what has impacted you? Like you're going, that's like this bright shining star, this moment, or and I think specifically maybe with yourself, but also maybe with a client, somebody that you helped. Can you maybe tell me a story about something that really impacted you that happened to somebody else because you were helping them?
I love that question. And I get that question often. And funny enough, my story is actually about my dad.
Ah.
Because how hard it is to convince your family members that a little bit better than they do, right? So I'm going to try to keep this short, but my dad had diabetes and high cholesterol pretty much since I was 6 years old. And one day, it was probably about 6 years ago or so, maybe five or 6 years ago, he came. So he was living in the US, I'm living in Switzerland, and our family is in Israel. So, he flew to Israel. My parents flew to Israel and were there. And then they stopped over in Switzerland before going back home. Mm-hmm. And he managed to wound his toe in Israel on the beach, right? He probably stepped on some glass. And he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks in Israel with antibiotics in the vein. And they gave him like creams and antibiotics and stuff. And so he came to Switzerland and I looked at his foot and I go, dude, it's soon gangrene. Like, how is this not, they're going to cut your foot off. WTF. Like, seriously, if that's not a wake up moment for you, what will be, And so I told him off. And then I told him, you're going to be in the kitchen with me and you're going to stop being a big baby about not eating vegetables and whatever. Yeah. And of course he was like, I don't want to. And then we went shopping together. My mom does all of the cooking really. So of course I integrated her as well, but I wanted him to see what I'm doing and I wanted him to try it out. So I would get some spinach and he's like, I don't like spinach. And I'm like, well, you're going to taste it and you're going to taste it. And of course, everything I made, he liked. And so long story short, he loved the food. They went back home and found out that the electricity went out when they were gone and both refrigerators, because America, right? So both huge refrigerators, all of the food had to go. And so he was like, that was a sign. That was a sign that I just need to kind of like restock with the good stuff. And so he restocked with the good stuff. And within I think it was like a month or a month and a half, he had his blood work with his doctor for like 26 years back then. And he got his results and he forwarded me the email. I still have that email somewhere, where his doctor said, your bad cholesterol is good. Your diabetes is not existing. Keep listening to your daughter. 3 lines.
Nice.
And I was like, was that hard? He was like, no, of course not. Your mom is cooking. But, you know, it was.
I don't have to do anything but eat. Yeah.
Exactly. What you do anyways, right? But the incredible thing is that not only was he feeling better before the results, he was taking less sofa naps because he was just a couch potato. Like he would just literally sleep all day in front of the TV, you know? He was taking walks, which he hardly ever did. He felt the energy, he felt better in his own body, right? And so, which obviously also helped with the insulin levels because movement, hey, surprise. Yeah. So he was really like, it was such an incredible kind of moving moment for all of us because your daughter just taught you something. Wow. You know, you don't necessarily know better than your kids. I learned that the hard way with my own kids very early on. They know a lot more than I do. But also the fact that it is not that hard, which was the highlight because he wasn't living on salads and couldn't eat like things that he loved. He just really made smarter choices and he was just a new person. And so that is probably the most moving story that I have, you know, alongside hundreds of clients that I had. This one is just obviously, for obvious reasons, dearest to my heart.
Of course, the hardest nut to crack, but when you do, it's the greatest reward. Yeah.
100%.
That's so cool. That's really, really cool. I mean, not cool that he had diabetes and had to go through all that, but I would say that that's probably the closest thing to a wake-up call where he's not being life-threatened, right? But still, the thought of losing a limb due to a disease that's basically avoidable for most people. Yeah, very 100%. Good. Oh, wow. I'm curious, with all your experimentation with foods, what is your best regimen for you? Like, what are the things that you make sure that you have in your diet versus the things that you make sure you avoid? And why, what is it about the foods that you avoid that, like, what do you feel when you're eating those that you know that's not good for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, the first thing that I have to say is the one thing that I am always leaning towards that has nothing to do with food in terms of nutrition is self-love. Because when we kick ourselves for the things that we just ate that we should not eat, okay, and I'm putting quotation marks for those not watching the video, it just gets worse. Right? We're making things worse. We're kicking ourselves. So you're going out with your friends and you're going like, I'm going to have that pizza today. Right? And then you go home and you're miserable because you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done it. I ruined everything. Again, quotation marks. I ruined everything. I'm going to pull out that Haagen-Dazs from the freezer and eat the whole bucket because I might as well. Right? And that spiral just continues. And so the first thing that I work with my clients, first thing that I do with myself is self-grace and self-love. Because if I say, cool, I did this, I chose to have pizza with my friends, I enjoyed their company, food wasn't delicious. Obviously, everyone loves pizza, well, most people. And now I'm going to say, cool, I love myself, I forgive myself, let's move on. What's the next best meal that I'm going to have? So much easier to overcome that little glitch on the way, but it's life. Having said that, I do know that dairy is something that is definitely super inflammatory for me. I used to suffer from chronic sinus infections. And when I stopped with dairy, lo and behold, it was gone. Gluten is, I just become stupid. I genuinely will not be able to form a sentence. Like I'll eat my pizza and I'll enjoy it. And then I'll go home and for about 20 hours, there's no one to talk to.
Nothing.
It's just stupidity, like 100% stupidity, you know? So those are the main ones. And of course, like kind of like processed foods and stuff. So how should I say this? I'm a bit of a health freak. So even when I have cookies, I will have cookies that are Danna approved, and ingredients approved and stuff. But having said that, it doesn't mean that I don't have these things. I just know how stupid I'm going to be, or how, how my body is going to react when I do. And so when I do choose to have them, I choose to have it on the weekend when I know I'm, again, I could be stupid or whatever, or I kind of make that executive decision to know how I'm going to feel. And if I choose to do that, then it's for the right cause.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's excellent. I'm curious how that's your own personal choice, what you're eating, but you're also a wife and a mother. How does your personal choices with food, how has that impacted your kids and your husband?
Hugely. My husband, when I met him, was like living off of Coke and gummy bears and sleeping 14 hours a day. And that wasn't even enough. When I met him, I was ADD and he had IBS, pretty bad IBS. Those things are behind us. And I know that some people are going to be like, what? She had ADD and now she doesn't? Yeah, I had ADD and now I don't. I now have only the superpowers of the ADD. And sometimes some distraction, but I'm okay. My kids, it's harder with kids if health is a word that you keep repeating, because health is such a convoluting word, right? It means something different to me and to you, to health coaches, let alone children. So it's just finding a way to communicate that. I have one, they will listen to this one day and they'll hate me, but I have one little angel and one little devil. They're both, both angels and devils in their own way, but one who will really, he listens and he's like, maybe we shouldn't have pizza today, mommy, because, and then the other one's like, yes, pizza and tiramisu. Yeah. And he'll just kind of go like, and just, shove it in. So you just do what you can as best you can. There are certain things that won't come into the house, but like if we go out, we'll go out and eat. Yeah. So we kind of choose sometimes, and often they will choose the healthier choice. Often they will go like, let's go to our favorite salad bar. And I'm like, but there's a pizza right across the street. And they're like, no, we love them, because they know they get like cottage cheese there, which they don't get at home. Right. So it's the little things. But sometimes we just go like, all right, it's gluten overload, guys. Let's just take our, digestive enzymes and cross our fingers and hope for the best and enjoy our food. So I think there's definitely that balance. And also the fact that what I'm cooking at home is just really delicious. So they're going to camp this week because it's vacation again in Switzerland, because it's always vacation here. And they insisted that they don't want to eat the food that they're going to get there. So I made like buckwheat bread that they love, or bought like these wraps. I should tell you about these wraps that they, new wraps that they have now, which are gluten-free, and they love it and they enjoy it and they have that energy afterwards. So they know how their body reacts also to certain foods. And then the little one, of course, goes and then eats the dessert that they have there as well, which is totally fine.
That's such an amazing gift to give your kids at that age, is the awareness that a lot of people lack awareness about how food reacts to their body, about how eating something on a Monday might affect their mood on a Tuesday. And I think that's, it sounds like you do a really good balance of like, when we're at home, it's my way, but it's good. But also that they realize that with how food affects them and that's like, that's such an important learning to have at such a young age. A lot of people never understand that the awareness of food, and to have it that young. I'm a little jealous. My mom also did really great cooking, but that's for my stories will come in a minute. But it's definitely, I'm impressed by your mothering skills to be able to do that with kids.
Don't be too impressed. I'm not that good of a mom. But it's one thing that I am proud of. It's like one of the only things, because I always say this, especially to people who don't have kids or want to have kids, or like, I always say like, look, I was the perfect parent before I had kids. As soon as they came, I was a hot mess, hot mess. Right. And until today, I'm kind of like trying to figure things out, and they're already 13 and 14. I have no clue what just happened. And they're already like soon starting to stink up the place, being teenagers, And so for me, if I die today, the one thing that I'm really proud of and happy about is that they will be able to fend for themselves. They'll be able to cook for themselves. They make meals for us all the time. And they will be able to understand the nutrition and health aspect of things. Everything else, dude, I broke them. I tried to avoid things that my parents did with me. I broke them in other ways. So,
Yeah.
it's just, you do your best and you hope for the best. And
Yeah.
parenting is freaking hard. It's the hardest job on the planet. Hardest job, hands down.
So that brings us to your new baby, this podcast, because that's basically like another child, birthing something creative and doing it also with another person who you don't know, because we really can't express to the listeners enough how much we don't know each other. I'm curious if you could share with our listeners why did you want to start a podcast, and really what do you hope to get across to listeners or bring to the listeners? Why should they tune in next time for another episode?
Because we're freaking awesome.
Because we're so freaking healthy.
And we're going to have such amazing guests on this show. And we're both just awesome. So that's one. But, I think that the reason why I thought having a podcast would be really, really cool, especially co-hosting one, because I don't trust myself to do it every month or whatever if I do it alone. But to do it together, I think what's important for me to deliver to people is that, first of all, health is not just nutrition. It's not just exercise, right? It's so many things. But also it's things that you and I could probably talk about for hours and hours, and we need an outlet. So yeah. I think that that's definitely one thing. I mean, I could go on live videos on social media and talk about things alone, staring at myself, but it's so much nicer to do it with another person.
It's so difficult, like just staring back at yourself on a screen. And yeah, it's definitely not as fun as co-hosting.
No, I think it really isn't. And you never know how long, like we can talk for hours now. If you want to tune out and pause and come back to us later. I always pause my podcasts. So yeah. I think it's the fact that people can really tune in and listen to topics that we find to be so frickin' healthy and so frickin' funny and delicious and whatever. I think our plan is awesome to, first of all, interview other experts of different fields, and also to review products and to talk about certain things that could help people to just take that extra step forward towards a healthier future. And those baby steps are all that matters.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. No, I'm super excited about some of the stuff we have coming up. I love the idea of, oh, you tried this? I tried that. How did it work for you? What happened? Yeah. Because I'm a gadget freak. I just love all these gadgets, and what does it tell me about my body, and how can I learn more, and experimentation. I think I love the experimentation part of the body, and how it's a machine, and how you work it, it's going to react differently. So I think that's, for me, it's interesting. And I also, for me, co-hosting with you is another perspective, right? I think that's always what podcasts like this bring, because who needs another health-based podcast? Like, how many health-based podcasts do you have in your library right now? And that's always the fear of starting something new in a topic that is kind of saturated in a way. But it's that fear monger, that inner saboteur that says what you have to say isn't any more valuable than what anybody else has to say. And for me, that's kind of my hurdle with all of anything with public speaking or getting yourself out there. But it's always my lens is different than your lens. And it's going to be different than the lens of the person who's listening to us. We always have a unique perspective on something. And I think from my point of view, it's, do we help one person today think about something different, that to consider a different way of doing something, or even just to reflect on themselves going, well, hell, I don't know. I never thought about that before. Or, my God, I didn't know that thing even existed. Like, that's my, like, where I see this as, and it's all around health, but those kind of little aha moments and kind of guiding people to find something or explore something or learn something about themselves.
100%. And I think what you said is really important. I think that people need to understand that your body is your science. Like, we don't have the answers for everything. You know, it drives me crazy when my clients send me a video of, I don't know, whoever, even like Dr. Hyman, who I love, he's the best. They send me a video and they're like, oh my God, he said that I should, you know, have kombucha and you know, like kimchi and da 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 da. And I know that they're histamine intolerant, for example, and I know that it would literally, like, it will kill them, not literally, but like it would really be bad for them. And so I feel like each person needs to understand that they're unique in their own way, that there is no one diet and one way that works for everyone.
Yeah. And
it is important to do these steps with someone, you know, but there are definitely steps forward that every single person needs to eat more vegetables. I don't care who you are, right? Yeah. Every single person needs to try to cut down on processed foods. I don't care who you are. And so there are definitely things that we will share that will apply to everyone. And I think that we will also make sure is to remind people that they are unique, that it might not work for everyone, and that it is important to keep certain things in mind, and otherwise just be graceful with yourself. Make sure that you give yourself the credit for the little step that was good, not the big one that was bad, right? And then move forward. And then we will be there, you know, to chat with you and support you throughout.
So Danna, thanks so much for sharing. I obviously know way more about you now than I did a little while ago, but I still don't know what you are. Tell me, what are you?
I'm a superwoman. No, I am a functional medicine certified health coach. I graduated from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition as well, and I specialize in gut health. So that's me.
Oh, it's so sexy. Yeah.
I know.
Woo! Yeah, get in that gut. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all your details. And we'll learn lots more about you, I think, with new stories and other things in the future. So thanks.
Definitely. And I'm looking forward to do you next time.
Yeah, do me.
Yes.
Hey, you're still listening. Great. Okay, now I can tell you about my 12-week goal setting session. So in this 1-hour session, I'm going to help guide you through a powerful process inspired by the best-selling book, The 12-Week Year. I know. Everybody at this time of the year starts to think about year-long goals. And I would argue that year-long goals are really hard to contextualize. What is going to be happening in a year from now? You have no idea. But 12 weeks gives you a little bit better understanding because you kind of already have your calendar booked out for the next 12 weeks, kind of know what's going to be going on. So if you can focus your goals on the next 12 weeks, you can make some really big actionable steps towards your long-term vision. So in this 1-hour session, we do talk about long-term vision. We talk about where you want to be. We talk about what your 5-year, 10-year, 3-year, all those goals are. But that's only a brief part. We know we see the long distance view, but let's break that down. And then we get into the 1 to 3 strategic 12-week goals that are going to get you to those long-term vision. Then we're going to put that into a really cool action plan with like checklists and timing and all that jazz to make sure that you are clear and that you have accountability to get those goals done. And then that's not it. Then we are going to tackle your roadblocks because you know you have roadblocks. So we're going to tackle those roadblocks. We're going to create a plan to overcome them. So you know when you start to self-sabotage, you know what you can do to get around those roadblocks. Okay, so if this is interesting for you, it is only 1 hour of your time and it's only 45 Swiss francs. I host this gig over on Fiverr, but I'm also going to put a link down in the show notes. So if you're interested, hit me up.